You must unite what has been set aside.
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. This is where the past meets the future, and here the results are always positive. I want to give you my Religion of Peace report first. We have a little bit of a thunderstorm going on outside, so pay no attention to the lightning. In the last 7 days, the Religion of Peace conducted 32 attacks. In these 32 attacks, they killed 158 innocent people. They injured 119 innocent people. They conducted 4 suicide blasts, and they spread their mayhem across 12 countries. So, just wanted to give you that Religion of Peace report. And speaking of peace, I have a report about 17 steps. President Trump continues his world peace tour by speed dialing Little Kim to schedule an impromptu meeting at the DMZ. Good to see you again, Kim said, according to a translator. He added he would have never expected Trump at this place. Shortly after, Trump said, "Good progress. Good progress." And he and Kim crossed back into South Korea. Stepping across that line was a great honor, Trump said, adding that he would invite Kim to visit the White House. That would be a first as well. "I think it's historic. It's a great day for the world," he said. Trump said the meeting was a victory, announcing that nuclear talks would resume within weeks and that the two countries were designating teams of officials to take the lead. He even invited Kim, who rarely leaves his country, to visit him at the White House. Democrats were crapping their panties as they did not have time to launch their global anti-peace propaganda campaign. A lot of people didn't notice, but from the time President Trump stepped over that curb, it took 17 steps to enter into North Korea. Just thought you should know. 17 steps. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Earthship. Now, we all know we're on this planet hurtling through space, spiraling behind our sun as it leads the way. But a new report funded by the Dutch government finds that microgrid technologies could make a local techno-economy 90% self-sufficient. This comes after a conference that I had in Amsterdam several years ago where we discussed low voltage local supply grids that did not require a main grid to power small numbers of homes or a home or a hospital or a traffic system. The new approach could even pave the way for 100% self-sufficiency in power, heat, water, and 50% self-sufficiency in food production. If optimized properly, the microgrids could play a pivotal role in supporting efforts to transition to renewable energy systems and meet climate targets. Now, it depends on where you get this energy from, but the point is that you don't need the 180,000 volt lines going overhead. You don't need nuclear power plants to generate super high voltage power systems that have to be stepped down at substations and then stepped down outside your house. Just provide the voltage right at your location. This is the brilliance behind this system. So what you really want to do is you want to go from dumb to smart. By the way, we are live at truthfrequencyradio.com. You can get the stream easily by going there, and you can listen to it by just clicking live stream. But you can also listen to this by calling the number 641-793-7117. If you call that, you can listen to the program by your phone. You can go out, go to the mall, go whatever you're going to do, walk around with your earbuds in, and you can listen to the program in crystal clarity. And it doesn't matter how many people call that line, everybody gets a clear signal. Oftentimes, the problem we have if people are listening on iHeart or TuneIn or one of the other online or phone apps is we have so many listeners on Sunday night that it overloads that system. Only so many people can log on to iHeart. After it gets to a certain point, then it starts to break up for people. So if that happens to you, just call that phone number, okay? 641-793-7117. We can handle everybody on that. Now, we are also live streaming on YouTube. So if you are on YouTube, this is a really good thing because you can also access chat. And I have a chat room. It's now live on the YouTube screen. You can see it. And you can see as your chats are made, they will show up on the screen right there on the right-hand side. So we can do that all night long. No problem. So you got the chat room at truthfrequencyradio.com or tfrlive.com, and brilliant people in there, and I'll be scanning that chat room all night long for witticisms and inputs from the crowd, and also the quality of the sound that you're hearing tonight. We are also a live call-in show, so if you have questions about anything, it doesn't matter what you want to ask, anything at all, you can call 213-233-3998. I'll give that number out every half hour, 213-233-3998. So it's a live call-in show. Please participate if you want to. If not, then we'll just carry on. So I want to talk a little bit more about this Earthship idea, because what we're really talking about is going from dumb to smart. Now, according to this new report titled New Strategies for Smart Integrated Decentralized Energy Systems, by 2050, I actually think by 2025, a lot of small communities could put some of these systems in place. These technologies are already available. They're already out there. You can get access to them, and you can protect your living space, your hospital, your police station, your traffic control system from destabilization from the grid going down. As you know, all across the United States and all across Europe, we have a unified grid system. And the problem when they created this grid system is they also created 3 vulnerabilities. And those 3 vulnerabilities are, number 1, either a natural disaster, such as a tidal wave, an earthquake, a tornado, a hurricane, something like that. We can have a cyber or a physical attack on a grid system. And the third is a pandemic. Like everybody, in Florida gets the flu. Who's going to run the power station? No problem. We can connect to it from New York, from North Carolina, and we can run the grid from there. The other vulnerability we don't really talk about too much, and that is phase matching. All of these power stations are independent. They all have different turbines turning either at hydroelectric dams or nuclear power plants or coal-fired power plants, and they all generate three-phase electricity. That three-phase electricity goes up on the line, and as it turns out, the electricity that's made in Yuma, Arizona has to match the electricity that's made in San Diego, California. If it doesn't, when those two electricities run into each other on the line, they sort of cancel each other out. We call that a power factor. When we have a power factor that drops below 90%, it begins generating heat, it loses efficiency, it's extremely expensive on the power company. We don't like that. In fact, we penalize companies that put power factor signals back on the grid from motors that they run inside their plants. So we make them put capacitors at their switchgear to prevent those transients from getting back on the line and lowering the power factor. It's just very critical. So these vulnerabilities did not exist before. We had this smart grid, but as it turns out, it has really presented us a lot of dumb vulnerabilities. And these vulnerabilities can be overcome by a local decentralized grid. So this report, which I submitted the first part of this to the National Electrical Reliability Corporation, the NERC, which is a private corporation, but it runs on huge government contracts, and their job is to stabilize the grid in the United States. I submitted these ideas to them 4 years ago, and I don't know if they took them to heart or not, but this is what we're seeing now. We're seeing these reports come out, and I can't help but think it came from that conference that we had in Amsterdam. So the report describes these microgrids, and you've heard that term a lot, microgrid. What does it mean? Well, the simplest way to implement it would be to create a new circuit in your facility, whether it's a plant or a home or a hospital or a police station or traffic management system. And this new circuit would be powered by this local power supply. And it would be produced at the voltage that you use it, like 220 volts for Europe or the United States, or for homes, it's 120 volts for most of the small circuits in your house that run like your computer or lights or your dishwasher or whatever. All these things run on 110. So you could run something like a water pump or a heat pump or your water heater or your dryer off of 220 if you had the voltage supplied at 220 volts. So the idea is not to supply the voltage at 14,400 volts, step it down to 4160, then 480, then 240, and then on into your house. The idea is to generate it at the voltage that you need it, at the point that you need it, when you need it. And this is kind of going from the dumb smart grid to a smart local grid called a microgrid. So you have separate outlets, maybe a different color, you have a separate breaker box, it's not connected to the meter, it just generates the energy that you need, where you need it, when you need it. Now currently this report reports on these technologies as dumb, but these technologies are actually quite advanced. And remember, simplicity is the crown of genius. So when we put these technologies together years ago, the idea was to create something that had a very low impact as far as construction materials. You don't need to have a nuclear power plant in your house. You don't need to have a steam turbine. You don't need to have a windmill outside your house unless you want one. These low impact construction materials that were used in this Earthship model focused on minimizing the ecological footprint of its inhabitants. So the systems in place at the Aardhuizen, which is the settlement in the Netherlands, would include heat pumps, electric boilers, solar thermal and photovoltaic panels, which are basically solar panels, wood stoves, and grid connections. Now, a lot of people are shying away from the wood stoves because you got to burn trees, it makes soot, it makes smoke, and particulate in the air, makes CO2. People are trying to shy away from that as well. So not so much on the wood stoves for heat, but other ways of doing it, like passive heat, really big insulative walls with a big airspace, and so that the sun can heat up this space during the day, and then that way you only have to heat your house up between the inside of the house and this insulative space. At night, when the temperatures drop down really low, then you supplement that power with other sources, either water that you've stored, which is elevated in temperature. You can run that, fans across those radiators, and warm your house until the day warms up or the sun comes up the next day. So a lot of different things. It means a slight difference in your lifestyle. A slight difference in your lifestyle. You may not be able to keep your house at 68 degrees in the summertime and 75 degrees in the wintertime. You might have to wear a sweater. You might have to wear a tank top in the summertime. But this is intelligent if you want to create these low impact situations. The thing that hurts with the grid, and this becomes most profound in areas like South Africa, where reliability to electricity is not very good. You have blackouts every single day. Every day, 1 to 2 to 3 hours, there's no electricity. You simply cannot have a freezer full of expensive meats when you're losing power 2 to 3 hours every single day. Your food is constantly thawing and freezing and thawing and freezing, and you know what's going to happen. You're gonna cook that pot roast, and you're gonna be very sick. So the idea is to create energy yourself during the 1 or 2 or 3 hours that the grid is down, so that, because you're not going to be able to go to the government of South Africa and say, hey, we want power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like we have in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm sure that's not going to fly, because they just don't have the infrastructure to be able to do that. So you're going to have to provide it yourself, and the way to do it is with these small microgrids. Now, you might only have 4 operating outlets in your house, and they may only operate for 3 or 4 hours if the grid is down, but it's all you need, and you can set these things up at fairly low cost. Now, these Earthship neighborhoods, this takes a lot of money to set up and a lot of forethought to set up. And it's not really understood. We don't have data to know how long-term sustainable neighborhoods like this are. It's fine as long as weather stays within certain parameters, but if you look at what's going on in, let's say, London today, where they're having record temperatures, and they will in Germany next week, and we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. We don't know if September's going to come around and it's still 90 degrees in Edinburgh. We don't know. I mean, how often does it get 90 degrees in Edinburgh? Not very often. I can tell you right now, a Scottish summer is about 65 or 70 degrees. But what happens if, just as violent a summer, they have a violent winter? What if it starts snowing on Thanksgiving in London and it doesn't let up until March? You see, these extremes in the weather make it very difficult for projects like Earthship to be able to handle those kinds of extremes. The insulative barriers that are set up, the water storage systems that are set up, they may not be able to take long-term sub-freezing temperatures. Pipes have to be buried, deeper in the ground when the earth freezes. So you have to take a lot of precautions. Some of these have been developed in states like New Mexico, where they do have these extremes. It's over 100 degrees in the summer, it's 20 below zero in the winter, and so you kind of get these extremes, and you can test a system out like that. But I'll tell you, the systems that I've seen, like Eagle's Nest and that, they're out of my price range. They're too expensive for me. But these technologies would entail a whole suite of interconnected technologies. It wouldn't be as simple as just I have a green transformer out in the yard that provides all the energy that we need for this household, and it's fed to us by Duke Energy under the ground, and it comes from the nuclear power plant about 22 miles from here. That's the system that we have. It's cheap, 6 or 7 cents a mil. It's reliable. It rarely goes out. Even in the thunderstorm we had today, it didn't go out. But not every neighborhood has that. Not every country has that. So these kinds of communities, if you want to grow them, you don't want to have just 1 or 2 people living in a house, but you want to have a neighborhood with, say, 300 or 500 people all working together with a kind of earthship mentality. Now you're talking about a community battery storage system. You're talking about special smart meters which actively monitor the entire system. The air to water heat pumps I was telling you about, where you warm up water during the day and then you use that heat at night. Or you cool off the water at night and you use that cool water during the day to lower the load on the condenser. The condenser is able to release energy much easier to water than it can to air. Air, it might be 105 degrees out. Well, you're only going to get about 40 degrees with the heat pump, so you're going to get about 65 degrees out the wall, and that's it. And that's working as hard as it can work. Well, that's because the condenser is making its heat exchange in that 105 degree air outside. But if it was making its heat exchange with, say, 56 degree water, you could get much colder air in your house while working your compressor a lot less hard and using a lot less energy. Now you understand what I'm talking about. So the other thing that we could use, and this, requires some technology, these power CHP units, which generate both heat and electricity using biomass, and the installation of a local district heating network to distribute heat to multiple houses. We have this in several metro areas. We'll have a central thermal unit that's downtown, and what it does, it creates dual temp water, hot water and cold water. And then the buildings in the downtown area, they just connect to these headers, and that way this cold water, which is somewhere around 40 degrees or 45 degrees, and this hot water, which is somewhere around 180, 190 degrees or 150 degrees, it flows through the building and provides the heat exchange for that building. So the water heaters in the building heat up drinking water by using these processed waters as the heat source, and in the summertime, the heat exchangers in the ceiling of each office simply blow air over the cold 40-degree radiator, and that's what cools the room. And all you really do is just vary the airflow, because the water temperature doesn't change much. It just generates those two temperatures of water. But, a thermal plant like that costs several $1,000,000 to build for big buildings like that, but it wouldn't cost that much for a small neighborhood of 300 to 500 people. It's a different way of thinking. It's a smarter way of thinking. It takes a while to make this plan. You don't convert an existing neighborhood to it. You plan a neighborhood to this. It's a whole new lifestyle. It takes a different kind of person living there. Slight inconveniences, but much more sustainability. So these results are actually quite scalable, because we don't still need, a central place 22 miles away over there, Duke Energy, which is, it's right over there. You can see it if you turn around. You can see it. You don't need that, because what you have is several decentralized areas. So if you have one area that has a problem, their system goes down, it doesn't affect the regional area, and everybody seems to survive a lot better. So the idea is to create an unstoppable emergence of this kind of energy. It's a new way of looking at living within the energy set of our environment. And we think, we're not sure, but we think if we do this, we will actually impact our environment less. And we won't contribute to the forces that seem to be upsetting everybody. I'm not saying that they're changing the world, but I am saying they're upsetting everybody that they think they may be changing the world. So our current simulations show that it could be possible to become 100% power, heat, and water, and 50% food self-sufficient. Living in a smart hood will instantly reduce one's ecological footprint by nearly 40%. We envision it as the circular, resilient neighborhood of the future that solves many of the 21st century's greatest challenges. Not so much here, in North Carolina, here close to the metro, but South Africa certainly, Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela could certainly benefit from it. Other countries like Zimbabwe and the Congo and places like this could definitely benefit from this kind of technology upgrade. Otherwise, somebody's going to have to go in there and build $1 billion nuclear reactor, and then they're going to have to lay a bunch of power lines. They're going to have to put a bunch of transformers. You understand what I'm talking about. 30, 40, 50 years and billions of dollars of investment. Somebody has to lay out, which means somebody has to pay the light bill. If we start this way with these circular technologies, one technology feeds the next technology that feeds the next technology, and we put less of an impact on our local environment, we can then move away from these super urban areas and more to a decentralized power system. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back right after this. Don't go away. We'll be back in about 3 minutes, so don't go away. Please stay with us, especially YouTube people on YouTube. Don't go away. Thanks.
It's amazing how people have been raving about iAlife all over Facebook. They've been posting their testimonials just because they want to get the word out because it's worked so well for them. If you're not familiar with iAlife, it's a 99% pure CBD oil, but the secret is the synergy between the hemp and the ayahuasca vine, the non-psychoactive component of the ayahuasca tea. We recently received an email from a wife whose husband has Parkinson's. For the first time, he's been able to sleep through the entire night. Another customer reported that they're no longer using NSAIDs because their tennis elbow has been relieved with iAlife. The reports have been phenomenal and much more than we ever expected. Everyone should have access to this. That's why if you head on over to ialife.com right now and use coupon code TFR, we'll give you $5 towards your order. And we'll even ship it worldwide. That's ialife.com, AYALife.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. This is Uncle Walt from the Ironworks. Josh, Corey, and I have chosen to look at life with no fear. No fear of the unknown. No fear of questions about the supposedly well-known. No fear of ridicule for thinking outside the familiar fool's lines. No fear of the boot on the neck of those refusing the party line. No fear of taking on those so convinced of their beliefs they would sooner drink the Kool-Aid than believe they've been fools made. In this world filled with me too, cattle think, can truth's protective layers be peeled back to show the tender, juicy pink? Are we all just grist for the mill? Souls sold against our will, or is that just how it feels? When you're filled to the brim, TV is so fear-filled and grim, get clear of the fear, right here. Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 a.m. on TFR. Josh and I and you will hammer out the impurities of technology-driven groupthink, fold in a dash of logic, and quench it all with a quick absurdity. The Ironworks. Break clear of the fear.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
Working it a little bit better now. Let me see if I can raise the volume levels up a little bit to make sure that it's working okay. Those of you out there on YouTube, please let me know if the audio levels are correct. I'm doing my best to try to make this work. I want to talk about an uncomfortable subject sometimes, and that is venereal disease. Oh, not the kind of venereal disease you think. No, the venereal disease of DC. All right, no sound now. Why don't we have sound? Let's just see if we can work on this. Well, we should be putting out sound. I'm not seeing any desktop audio at all. All right, hang on a second here. Properties. Default. Okay, let's see if that's working a little bit better. No? Still can't hear me? I'm not sure why. Oh, the sound is fine in TFR. All right, well, I'm trying to work the sound in OBS because for some reason OBS is not working very well. I'm not getting it out there. Not exactly sure why. It should be going out there, but I'm not really getting it, so I'm not seeing any desktop audio. Oh, there we go. Much better. Okay, well, let's see here. Let me set it back the way it was, just to be sure. Okay, there we go. Now we should have it right. Okay, so there are some things after which you must thoroughly wash your hands. It appears that being a congressman is one of them. You see, former politicians regularly monetize their experience and contacts by becoming lobbyists. It's not a good thing. I want to put these on because my monitor is a little bit further away than it normally is. They become lobbyists, consultants, and they join other endeavors to influence government activities. It turns out, and this is really going to amaze you because I'm sure you weren't aware of this. There we go. Now we got it fixed. There are 430 former politicians, congressmen, senators, and they're now being paid to help shape government policies as lobbyists, consultants, and in other capacities. 60%, almost two-thirds of them, of the 44 members who took new jobs after leaving Congress in 2019 now work in lobbying, consulting, or otherwise influencing government activities. So who says bipartisanship is dead in Washington, right? It's crazy. So I don't think it should be legal at all to become a corporate lobbyist if you've served in Congress. And I'll tell you why and how this goes on. Nearly 60% of former members of the 115th Congress who have taken jobs outside of politics are now lobbying or have other jobs influencing federal policy. You see, if you're a member of Congress and you leave, I don't think you should be allowed to turn right around and leverage your service for a lobbyist check. I don't think it should be legal for this to happen. At a minimum, there should be a wait period. Now, I can tell you how this happens because I've been to Washington a lot of times myself, trying to raise money for the electric truck company. I know what I'm talking about here. Companies like mine are endlessly looking for a way to leverage a big customer contract for financing to get started up. Getting a big contract with the Navy or the National Park Service would launch any company like mine into serious revenue. The issue is, I don't know anyone with either of those offices. So I go looking for someone who has the phone number of the person who can make that obligation. That sale I can take to the bank because of who the customer is, you see, and the bank will loan me the money to fulfill that contract. That's how it goes. Why? That's a good question. Because they know the customer will pay the bill. Now, I recently spoke at Contact in the Desert, but I had to get the secret email address. It wasn't until someone handed me that secret email address of the person who chooses the speakers for that event that I got my shot. I tried for 7 years and could not find that person. It was handed to me in a hallway in Las Vegas. I'm serious. In the dark. But no one would ever have seen me without that secret email address. And that's what a lobbyist does. That's what a lobbyist does. You see, they have that email address. They have the cell phone number or the magic combination that gets the meeting where those kinds of deals get made. And that's precisely why being a member of Congress is so valuable. Because a smart congressman, once they get to D.C., they start gathering contacts of the people who make certain decisions, people who make grant decisions, people who make contract decisions. They get the phone numbers, they get the email address, they shake the hands, they make sure that when they step out of Congress, they have the ability to make money. And if they served on the Department of Interior, then people who sell farm products would love to have their contacts. If your company makes weapons or software, even electric trucks, having the contact information of that acting congressman or that agency head or that grant officer would be extremely valuable. And that's how it's done. And that's why we have to wash our hands every time we go to Washington. Just to give you a little story, I got a phone call one time from a senator in California because I make electric trucks and California is interested in electric vehicles. The senator's name was Barbara Boxer. And Barbara Boxer's manager called me and said, "We'd like you to come to California and meet with Senator Boxer. We think that you could make a good pitch to her and she can carry your company to the right people that need to make the decisions to help fund your company and get you started." Wow, I was all ears. You bet I was. And then I got another phone call. Okay, here's the time of the meeting. Here's the place of the meeting. I had to go to Beverly Hills. It was going to be a private fundraiser at a Beverly Hills house. I was going to go there, fly all the way there, get access to the house, stand around, eating whatever hors d'oeuvres they have, and wait my turn to speak to Senator Boxer. They wanted 10% of the shares of my company for that meeting. I said, "I'll get back with you." Well, I happened to be, at that time, a member of the Military Business Center in North Carolina. So I made an appointment. I sat down with the guys, and I said, "Here's the deal." And this is what the officer told me. run in the other direction because this is illegal as hell. Don't participate in this. So I didn't. I didn't go to California. I didn't meet with Senator Boxer, and I didn't get the money. So that's what I'm talking about. Speaking of senators from California, people want to know, who is Kamala Harris? Well, Kamala Harris's sick past is coming back to haunt her. New information has come to light of her dealings when she served as California Attorney General back in 2015. The case involves one of the most heinous crimes on record. Baby killers who had the right connections. Harris made a secret dirty deal, taking $81,000 to let the baby killers go free. And in return, she got to become a senator. This is going to blow your mind. Tonight, we are ending Kamala Harris's run for the presidency. There were 2 clown cars last week. Next week, there's only going to be 1. And Kamala Harris ain't going to be in it. Most people remember the undercover videos from 2015 of Planned Parenthood getting caught selling fetal parts for profit. You remember that? Don't ever forget that. The shocking videos showed those who profit off of not just aborting the fetuses, but also by selling the baby body parts. Many of the videos were in California, and you guessed it, the case came across the desk of Attorney General Kamala Harris. Undercover videos surfaced in 2015 showing Planned Parenthood officials openly discussing buying and selling the body parts and organs from aborted babies for research. Big dollars, big dollars. Not just the sale and the purchase of the body parts, but the preservation and the transfer of the body parts. These things have to be kept at a certain temperature. They have to be transported quickly in order to get them to their destination intact. Rather than opening an investigation into Planned Parenthood for trafficking in human body parts, California's then Attorney General Kamala Harris, a Democrat, filed charges against the undercover investigators. Yeah, David Daleiden and Sandra Merritt of the Center for Medical Progress. Now, it's not only that Kamala Harris allowed those murderers at Planned Parenthood to get away with the crimes against the fetuses, but her obsession with persecuting the pro-life video makers was completely off the charts. Harris ordered Daleiden's home to be raided, and then she used 11 agents, confiscated video research and evidence in an attempt to prevent millions of people from seeing what actually goes on inside Planned Parenthood. Let me tell you, Kamala Harris is a rabid anti-life agent of evil. These women who identify as pro-choice are especially vindictive against those of us who stand for life, because they're not pro-choice. They're pro-abortion. And Harris was so bad, even the liberal LA Times was shocked by her utter disregard for the law. Never in the history of California has anyone been charged with a crime for undercover reporting, ever. There was a recent similar case of animal abuse being outed by undercover videos. Guess what? No charges were filed in that case. Then, here's the big payoff. You ready for this? In total, over $81,000 has flowed into Harris's campaign coffers from Planned Parenthood and other abortion promoters. She owes these people for her political livelihood. She's compromised to them. Harris has shown that she is a puppet of radical leftists, with Planned Parenthood and the rest of the abortion cartel paying for the right to pull her strings. Now, she's doing the bidding of her conspirators at Planned Parenthood, tweeting on their behalf. In this nation's history that we turned away from God since 1973, the CDC reports, we have aborted, just in this country, 59 million Americans. Just let that sink in for a minute. As Christians, we believe each baby has a soul at conception and that God, being all-knowing, knew each child before they were in the womb. But there's more. There's more. Yes, of course, shame on Kamala Harris. Every American needs to know this. But during the clown car debates, Kamala Harris played the sad role of a child who was bused to school during Joe Biden's early days as a senator. True to character, the entire story was a lie. You see, Kamala Devi Harris was born October 20th, 1964. 1964. Okay? She is Jamaican and Indian. Her mother's occupation was a student and a teaching fellow, University of California. Neither of her parents were citizens. Her father was Jamaican, her mother was Indian. Unless proven with court documents, which I don't think you're going to find, ever. At the time of Kamala's birth, her parents were not U.S. citizens. They were foreign students. And this is the most important fact of this story. At the time of her birth, with her parents not being U.S. citizens, this makes Kamala Harris an anchor baby. She is, according to the Constitution, not eligible to hold the office of president. It's true. It's true. She went on to say in this story that she says that little girl was me. She claims so tearfully that she was hurt by being bused to white schools. There's just one problem with this lie. California has been desegregated since 1963, the year before Kamala was born. Harris's family lived in Berkeley, California, where both of her parents attended graduate school until she was 8 years old. That's it, 8 years old. The argument was that separate was not equal. Black schools were assumed to not produce the same quality of graduate as white schools. That was the claim that inspired the whole busing program, you remember? Well, then her parents divorced when she was just 7 in the year 1971. And her mother was granted custody of the children. And guess what? After the divorce, when Harris was just 8 years old, her mother moved with the children to Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where her mother accepted a position doing research at Jewish General Hospital and teaching at McGill University. So you see, she could not have been hurt by Joe Biden's busing policy. She lied in the debates to America. Again. From the age of 8 until she graduated from high school, she lived in Canada. Canada does not bus black children to white schools. And after graduating Westmount High School in Westmount, Quebec, in Canada, in 1981, Harris attended Howard University in Washington, D.C., where she majored in political science and economics. Harris returned to California, where she earned her J.D., which allowed her to take the law exam from the University of California Hastings College of the Law in 1989, and she was admitted to the state bar of California in 1990. Now, it didn't take her long to figure out how to rise in California politics. She began providing sexual favors to Willie Brown. That would be the mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown. In 1995, she began dating Brown when she was only 29 and he was 60. He was the Assembly Speaker and one of the most powerful men in California politics. Brown put Harris on the State Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board and the California Medical Assistance Commission. Although that job paid nearly $98,000, Harris's term was set to expire in 5 weeks when Brown tapped her for the Medical Assistance Commission slot, and that body met only once a month, and it paid $72,000 because it wasn't considered a full-time job. Now, that was in 1995. $72,000, pretty good income for only having to meet once a month. Harris went on to steal the election for California Attorney General in 2010. Los Angeles District Attorney Steve Cooley actually was beating Harris in the election by 34,000 votes after more than 7 million were counted. But Kamala reached out to Ballots R Us, and after the provisional ballots were counted, she was declared the winner by approximately 50,000 votes. Yeah, at one point he was ahead 62,000 votes. Kamala then called Ballots R Us in panic mode by reaching out to another sex climber, California Secretary of State Deborah Bowen. Oh, why her? Because she was the one whose role was to certify the votes. And instantly, magically, tens of thousands of Cooley's votes just vanished into thin air, and Harris won the election. She was summarily re-elected to Attorney General in a pro forma fashion in 2014, by the way, without opposition. She ran for Barbara Boxer's vacated office in 2016. One corrupt senator replacing another. Under the new rules, candidates all run together and the top two face each other off in a runoff regardless of party. Nobody got a majority in the first round. Republicans didn't even offer a serious candidate. He only got 7% of the vote. And the race featured Harris against another Democrat congresswoman, Loretta Sanchez. Harris overwhelmed Sanchez by spending $9.8 million compared to only $3.3 million for Sanchez, and Sanchez then lost to a brutal smear campaign run by Harris that allowed her to barely beat Sanchez. With the seat going Democrat anyway, the press never covered the election. Nobody cared. You never heard about it until right now. And also, Harris arrived in the Senate after using sexual favors to get into the attorney's office, a pro forma re-election, and a well-funded smear campaign to run unopposed. So, really, without scrutiny and never having had a tough battle, Kamala Harris entered the Senate in January of 2017, and as soon as she hit the Senate floor, she began her presidential run. The only issue is that now the sexual prowess of 29-year-old Kamala Harris is a hammered 53 years old. She had to try something else to win. So she decided to pose as an African American. She was appointed quickly to the powerful Senate Judiciary Committee, where her grandstanding and her merciless attacks on Judge Brett Kavanaugh and President Trump launched her campaign. Serving senators have only been elected to president 3 times: Warren G. Harding, John F. Kennedy, and Barack Obama. Do you really think a Jamaican anchor baby from Canada can be elected to president? So, now you know the truth behind Kamala Harris. She was not born to American citizens. She did not go to school from the 3rd grade until graduating high school in America. She's not black. She did not win her Senate seat. She is a complete and total fraud who slept her way into the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, cheated her way into the Attorney General's office, and ran unopposed to become a U.S. Senator from California. Now you know who Kamala Harris is and who she is not. Once again, as I told David Webb on his national radio program on Patriot 125, Kamala Harris is an anchor baby, and thus she is not eligible to be elected president. Mark it down and make it so. We're going to take a quick break in a minute. If you want to call in, talk about anything at all, you want to refute what I just said, every single thing I told you is fact. 213-233-3998. 213-233-3998. We'll be right back after this. You YouTubers hang in there. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks, Earth Explorers. Hang with me. We got 2 hours to go.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, X Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Karenism Raw with Karen and Missa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Ra Castaldo, The Infinite Fridge with Billy Ray, Ironworks with Josh Corey, The Cam Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear on the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Trump's trip to the DMZ. June ends with pride events. I'm Evan Haining. There was history but little pomp and circumstance as President Trump and dictator Kim Jong-un met at the demilitarized zone that separates the two Koreas. The meeting followed the president's tweeted invitation to Kim to shake hands at the DMZ. Correspondent Will Ripley reports this after failed talks between the two leaders in February that North Korea followed with the resumption of short-range missile tests and bellicose rhetoric.
It's unclear if this historic moment at the DMZ will be enough to smooth over vastly different views on denuclearization, a word President Trump never said once on Sunday. As President Trump boarded Air Force One, the day ended as it began, with a tweet. Stood on the soil of North Korea, an important statement for all, and a great honor.
Millions of people filled the streets of many cities, including New York, to celebrate LGBTQ pride on World Pride Day. One spectator says the power of love was on full display.
I just had to be here for this, and it just shows that, you know, the powers that be can be negative, they can be forceful in their demeanor, but you cannot stop love. And that's what I'm getting out of today, and that's hopefully what I'm also putting into.
The White House says President Trump has long advocated LGBTQ equality and has backed a global campaign to decriminalize homosexuality. The U.S. Supreme Court legalized gay marriage in 2015. A small plane crash in Addison, Texas has killed all 10 people aboard. The private twin-engine plane crashed into a hangar during takeoff. The bodies of the father and daughter who drowned together while trying to cross the Rio Grande to the U.S. have been returned to El Salvador. The remains of Oscar Alberto Martinez and his young daughter Valeria are expected to be buried in a private ceremony tomorrow. I'm Evan Haney.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to X Squared Radio's second hour. I've gone ahead and added a Facebook Live as well to this. So now we're doing YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and TFR Live, and we'll just see what happens. We got to get this word out. Because this hour we're talking about the Declaration of Internet Independence. It's important. The original article was written by Larry Sanger and made my own edits to it, so you should enjoy it. If you want to join tonight's program, this is a live call-in program, you can call in at 213-233-3998, 213-233-3998. We have a caller calling in from Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's go ahead and unmute that call, and we'll find out what's going on. Las Vegas. All right, here we go. But wait, hold on one second. Hold on just a second, Las Vegas. Columbia, South Carolina was on before. Columbia, South Carolina, you are live on X-Squared Radio. What's up? You are live. Columbia, South Carolina, going once. Let's just be out there and just listen. All right, let's take Las Vegas. You are live on X-Squared Radio. What's on the line? Corey, are you out there? I'm not picking anything up from Corey. So that's two. Let me just make sure this is working okay. Are you there, Corey? Nope, nothing from them. Okay, we have another one, line 3 out of Las Vegas. Let's pick this one up. Are you there? Welcome to the program. Cave Chris from Las Vegas, you are live. Nope, we are not hearing anything. Well, we'll just beat that again, and we'll carry on with that program. Sometimes people just call in to listen. Let me run the anti-static just a quick second here. Nope, not getting anything there. So I'm hearing a loud hiss. Must be coming from the studio. I'm not sure what that is. All right, so humanity has seen the recent rise to power of vast digital empires. That should bring Facebook sound up a little bit. And these empires have become centralized in the hands of only 4 people. It would be one thing if they allowed competition to enter the market and unseat them. Let me just ask one quick question in the chat. Is the hiss coming from TFR Live, YouTube, or Facebook? Just let me know, and people that are listening. think that the loud hiss is occurring on TFR. You see, these tech empires, these vast digital empires, have become centralized in the hands of only 4 people. It would be one thing if they allowed competition to enter the market. Why do I not have any audio? Everything is connected correctly. We did this sound check earlier. No audio on Facebook Live. We don't know why. Everything's connected. Everything's working. To raise that up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Just tell me on Facebook if you have sound text, because I can't send it to you. Messages. Okay, let's see if that comes up. Still no. I don't know if we'll just keep going. I'm going to have to end the Facebook because no audio going on Facebook. Sorry, it's just one of those things. See you later. I hate when that happens. It's just technology. That's too bad. A couple hundred Facebook fans out there wanting to hear anything. Can't hear nothing. So, it would be one thing if these tech giants allowed competition to enter the market and unseat them. But they have established a fascist system of access to information that does not allow anyone to compete on that level. It is sort of like when God created Adam from dirt. Lucifer said, I can do that. And he reached out to gather up some dirt. And God simply said, hey, get your own dirt. Well, the tech giants, Google, Twitter, Facebook, and Microsoft have said the same thing. Get your own internet. Let's see if that works. So the tech giants, Google, Twitter, Facebook, and Microsoft have said the same thing. Get your own internet. Now, we the people declare that we have unalienable digital rights. These rights define how information that we individually own may or may not be treated by others, and that among these rights are free speech, privacy, and security. Since the proprietary, centralized architecture of the internet at present has reduced most of us to abandon these rights, we want fast, albeit unbiased searches. We demand a new system that shows us what we seek without deciding what they want us to see or not see. The difficulty and divisiveness of wholesale reform means that this task is not to be undertaken. I'll lower that up. Let's see if that fixes it. Somebody's saying that I'm really clipping that, although I'm not. I haven't seen the OBS sound levels, which is fine. Just keep the feedback coming. I'll keep adjusting the sound until it gets right. That's one of the issues that we have on YouTube and other media is we have no monitors. There's no way we know what we sound like until after it's all recorded and done. We have to allow people to listen. If they don't give us feedback, then it goes out as a bunch of crap. So the long train of abuses we have suffered makes it our duty to replace the old memories, to show what train of abuses we have suffered at the hands of these giant corporations. Let these facts be submitted to a candid world. They have banned, shadow banned, throttled, and demonetized I'm going to shut the YouTube